So I want to tell you about Tilework for String Quartet. I wrote a lot of pieces called Tilework, which means more or less carrelage, pavage, mosaic, in 2002, 2003. And Tilework for String Quartet is only one of them. All of the scores have this same 5-note rhythm running around the cover. If you look at the up stems, it says ta 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 ta. And if you look at the down stems, they go do 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 do, the same rhythm. And we say that this rhythm tiles the line with itself because you can play, two people can play ta 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 tu tu ta ta tu ta ta tu tu ta tu tu ta ta tu ta ta tu tu ta tu tu. Two, 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 and tile the line. It can be not just two players, it can be a third player, fourth player, you could go all around the cover and come back endlessly. That's the idea of Tilework. Here's the score for the first two variations of Tilework for String Quartet, when the four players tile cycles of 24 points with one 6-note rhythm, a musical idea generally referred to as a rhythmic canon. And that sounds like this. Well, it's not so easy to hear those rhythms, and you can imagine for the string players, it's not so easy either. We're listening to the Locrian chamber players in New York. This is a performance in 2005, just 2 years after the piece was written. And they're amazingly accurate. It's very difficult for 4 musicians to play with complete precision with a piece like this, because the music is very transparent. One person must play on every beat, but never 2 people, and there should never be a silence, because if you hear a silence or you hear 2 people play at once, it's obvious that there was a mistake. You don't know who made the mistake, but something was wrong. I put together all the rhythmic canons of 6 notes that I found that exist, but I didn't include the some that I consider trivial, which is basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That seems trivial because somebody, second voice can come in here or here or here or here or here, and it's kind of uninteresting besides musically. So I eliminated those. Let me try to follow the next variation, and you try to follow it too, if you can hear the rhythm in this next variation. think it dumped, dump, dump, dot, dot, dot. I think it was that. Let me try the next one. Maybe I'll get that better. Is that right? Dum, 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 dum. I think I got that right. Another way to visualize the rhythmic canons is with squares like this. In these cases, one instrument starts on each corner and the rhythms go clockwise around the square. And you can see very clearly how these different rhythmic canons work around these 4-point squares. The music you're going to hear now, these next variations, is not exactly the ones that you're seeing around these squares, but all of these rhythmic canons can be visualized as the 4 instruments going around a square. So now we're going to listen to variation 11, 12, and 13. You can try to visualize that on squares or in some other way, however you want. And I just give you no visual aids. Visualize this however you can. It's not so easy to follow. Of course, you don't have to just go around a square. If there were 10 players, you could go around a 10-point space, or you could have like I had on the cover here. Any multiple of 6 is possible. You can make a cycle that can be just 2 players alternating, but it could be 10 or 15 players alternating. One entry every 6 beats. We had to wait quite a long time to hear that last note played by the viola. The sequence, by the way, is always first violin, second violin, cello, viola. So it's always the viola that finishes descending. And there's something kind of amusing when that last note finally comes in. We knew it had to come, but we have to wait, and blah, finally it comes. And there's something amusing about that. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Les Beaux Divertissements of Satie, for example, which is also little machines that turn around, and for some reason they're amusing. And that's the case here as well. Here you see an explanation of how the pitches and the rhythms are the same logic. You see above a descending chromatic scale, and below you see one of the rhythms, one of the rhythmic canon themes. And you can see how the notes come off that chromatic scale just in the places that the rhythm comes off of that chromatic scale. I don't think you really hear a relationship between the melody and the rhythms. Curiously, it's kind of subliminal. But I like the idea that there's an inner logic and that the rhythms and the melodies are somehow related. Going back to this 2003 score, 15 years later, I couldn't quite remember how I had calculated all of the possible 6-note rhythms that make rhythmic canons in 24 beats for 4 players. So I decided to do a little analysis and came up with a drawing, which I want to show you. We usually cut the applause, but in this case, it was so strong and so well deserved, we decided to leave it in.